he actually loved the work, which I was nervous about because it's pretty unregulated and it's not traditional. And I mean, you can look at the portrait online. It has the basically the background of Mar-a-Lago is like, enmeshed with his actual, torso, and his suit is dripping, and there's like an American flag that's sort of wrapped around his sleeve, and the bottom of it is unfinished. There's like, space between his cuff and his hand where, something could be up his sleeve. And he got it. He said that he thought it was, to be honest with you, he said that he thought it was genius.
Oh, well, great praise indeed.
So I think he got that I expressed the chaos of the moment, and that this isn't just about him, but this is about the American imagination and the ways in which that either inflates or deflates our political figures.
Now you're hearing a little bit of the trial there and some sketching happening at the same time. Now, as Donald Trump was standing trial in New York in the Stormy Daniels hush money case, courtroom sketch artists raced to capture the proceedings for media coverage of the case. And among them sat Isabelle Brourman. She's a mixed media artist who decided to turn her sketches of the trial into high art. Now, Donald Trump also sat for a private painting at his Mar-A-Lago resort. And Isabelle has now created an exhibit in New York out of her work. And I'm delighted to say that Isabelle joins us now. Isabelle, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. It's
Isabelle,
actually the morning here.
yeah, well, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the atmosphere in the courtroom whilst you were doing your sketch.
I think that it the judge said yesterday at the sentencing something really interesting. He said when those doors closed, it was a normal proceeding. And that had a lot to do with the way that it was so regulated and well, directed from the court system. But there's so much external information because you're dealing with such a high profile cast of figures. And my job in the room, as I see it, is to sort of collect the tension between those people. So the atmosphere, it really depended on who was there, who was going on the stand for the day, because there were so many subplots to these trials.
And what was Donald Trump's demeanor when he was in the courtroom? Because I assume that, of course, you've got a very short amount of time to capture the moment you choose for that particular sketch. So what was that experience like?
Well, actually, the reason that my work has kind of caught, the attention of everybody is because I'm not necessarily choosing one moment and then committing to drawing out that moment for the rest of the trial. I'm reacting live to what's happening the entire time and building a story of the atmosphere. So Donald Trump is a pretty charismatic individual in the courtroom. You know, the civil trial, he didn't have the same gag order in place, and it was just a completely different, you know, uh, it was a different trial, and it was a lot less serious because he was facing different penalties than he was in the criminal trial. Also was interesting because within the context of the campaign and the presidency, we were nearing the campaign, and we were nearing election day more so in the criminal trial. And so there was more energy there to play with because there was more suspense, I think. So it really depended, but you kind of never knew. He was pretty, uh, I think that in the civil trial, there was more to draw from as far as he is concerned. But in the criminal trial, there were more characters that came in because, there were VP hopefuls that sat and, supported him. And there was just more of Washington was in the criminal trial, but he was actually a lot more, um, I don't know, stoic, I guess is a word you could use. But, that was because he didn't have the same ability to express himself. In the civil
Mhm.
trial, there were a couple moments, one moment that in particular that kind of highlights what I was able to do as an artist who was just drawing freely and reacting. When he stormed out after there was a Michael Cohen moment on the stand where his attorney said, "Okay, like let's move this." He just admitted something, and it's enough to basically end this court trial.
Mhm.
And the judge denied that. And Donald Trump, soon to be president, Donald Trump again, he stormed up. He said, "I'm leaving." And so I captured that and I just sort of collapsed it onto the scene that I was already drawing.
Um, what was the experience of visiting Mar-A-Lago? Because President-elect Trump sat for you for further painting. So how did that come about, and what was that experience like?
It was really interesting to see him outside of the courtroom because I had been spending so much time drawing him in a space that really wasn't his own at all. And so entering sort of his court, it it kind of gave me more of an idea of what he's coming from and what his environment is and what the people around him, how things work. I i i initially proposed that idea because after the trials I was on a road trip with my friend. We're making a film and I was drawing the campaigns. I went to the RNC, the DNC, but right before the RNC we were driving there to Milwaukee and the assassination attempt happened. So we arrived to the RNC and no one had seen Donald Trump since then. And since I had been studying him so closely, when I did see his emergence, I noticed that there was a different expression on him that I hadn't really picked up on before. And that intrigued me. How had he changed since that event in Butler? So I proposed with a journalist at New York Magazine to accompany her because she was interested in the same things, Olivia Nuzzi, finding out how this affected him and what this meant, for the future of the campaign and for the way that he would be approaching the presidency and trying to earn the presidency, and if he had changed as an individual.
And what did you find?
I think that that's a good question, and I don't have a conclusive answer to it, to be honest with you, as far as that goes.
Uh-huh.
I think I was opening myself up to how 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 like his demeanor was in Mar-a-Lago. And I think that, I found that he, is there was, listen to me, I'm stumbling over my words. I don't really know what I found yet. And I think that's the point of the work, is that
Yeah.
I'm still excavating what it
Isabel,
is.
Isabel, what do you, I mean, Donald Trump does have a bit of a reputation of being quite a vain man. He takes a lot of care of how he comes across, the images of himself. What did he make of your sketches?
He actually loved the work, which I was nervous about because it's pretty unregulated and it's not traditional. And I mean, you can look at the portrait online. It has the basically the background of Mar-a-Lago is like, enmeshed with his actual, torso, and his suit is dripping, and there's like an American flag that's sort of wrapped around his sleeve, and the bottom of it is unfinished. There's like, space between his cuff and his hand where, something could be up his sleeve. And he got it. He said that he thought it was, to be honest with you, he said that he thought it was genius.
Oh, great praise indeed.
So I think he got that I expressed the chaos of the moment, and that this isn't just about him, but this is about the American imagination and the ways in which that either inflates or deflates our political figures.
Well, Isabelle, thank you so much for giving us your time. Congratulations again on.
Sorry I didn't have that answer for you.
No,
Thank you
well,
for
look,
having
hey,
me.